American muscle car legend is back, yet again in 2026, but not as the legendary V8 that we all know. For almost 54 years, the Dodge Charger is basically the most iconic muscle car in the whole wide world. But then, since the 80s, 90s, and 2021 absence, the Dodge Charger soon disappeared for almost 56 years, and guess what? They brought it back in 2026. This is the Dodge Charger 6 pack, literally. We are looking back at a legend that has long been gone since the days has begun. So let's talk about the Dodge Charger 6 pack. The Dodge Charger 6 pack is basically a V6 powered Dodge Charger, hence the name. But why does it look compared to what other muscle cars were like back in its time? Well, it's simple. The Dodge Charger 6 pack boasts its two-door legacy beginning in the 1960s and early 1970s. The Dodge Charger RT from 1969 and 1970 was the real reason why the Dodge Charger 6 pack gains its two-door life back in the time it was just made in the 1960s. What is so interesting about the Dodge Charger 6 pack is that the 6 pack Dodge Charger basically is a hatchback. Yes, I'm telling you this. The whole back tailgate of the car lifts up to reveal a very spacious trunk, although not very massive, but it is still the same iconic Dodge. Everyone remembers the Dodge Charger in 1969, but 2026, that was something different. The Dodge Charger 6 pack is not really a V8 muscle car anymore. It's a V6 because why use a V6? Because the V6 is basically the most practically used cheap engine that many people buys a lot, like the Nissan GTR R35, which basically is expensive in the early 2000s and today. But this is something far more unique compared to what others feel. The original Dodge Charger had a V8 426 Hemi or a 440 Magnum V8 power plant. They were pretty much known in the muscle car world with 504 horsepower and 600 horsepower. But this is something less than a V8. This is a V6 Dodge Charger. The uniqueness change of the Dodge Charger 6 pack is that although it's basically not like the original Dodge Charger, it still looks exactly like the original. That two-door coupe design is basically the most iconic Dodge design ever created since the early 1960s and mid 1970s. The Dodge Charger 6 pack is by far the greatest modern day sports car that basically draws its roots back to early muscle car era. The traditional Dodge Charger from 1969 towards 1970 was basically all about Hemi, but when 2026 released this, it basically was something not V8 related. This is a V6. I mean, what is with Dodge nowadays? Did Dodge really make this car exist? I mean, I know it's this whole concept idea of having electric chargers, but it doesn't make quite sense. Why shove a V6 into the most legendary Detroit muscle car ever produced? It's not really bad. I just think it looks kind of strange to put a V6 engine into a muscle car's body. The Dodge Charger 6 pack may be the most less muscle car that has ever produced, but since it released in 2026, I really like its iconic design. It really matches that classic 1960s and 70s look. Very iconic, very pronounced. What the Dodge Charger 6 pack ever tells you is that this is no muscle car that did use a V8. In fact, it's the only V8 muscle car that is not truly V8 powered. It's just a V6. Pretty much a reliable engine that most cars still uses today. What I now understand about the Dodge Charger 6 pack is that even though muscle cars were gone for a very, very long time due to the oil crisis, but the Dodge Charger 6 pack is basically the most loved Dodge Charger generation of all time. And it kind of reminds me of that BMW M5 F90 from 2016. And yeah, it basically would have done the same thing with this, a Dodge Charger, really. I mean, an M5 and Dodge Charger 6 pack, both in the same era where both vehicles are just meh, pretty much the same car but with a different logo and a different body shape. But this Charger really brings out the style. It brings when those times are just about V8s, no advanced technologies back in the 60s. The Dodge Charger 6 pack is not supposed to be V8, but it is what it is. It's a Dodge Charger, but still, even though it's got the name Dodge Charger, it may have left the V8 era where everything is just all about V6 and inline force, whatever. The Dodge Charger 6 pack basically is the Charger that everyone wants to know and love. Thank you for watching. Make sure that you go comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.